Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of Odds Are, your S&P 500 weekly market forecast. Yes, if you're listening, you caught on that name is slightly different from what we've been introducing the show as before. So I actually made a modification because as individuals and as a show, we are all evolving and changing. And so originally the concept was that because I am an options trader, I felt that the information that I was going to be sharing was going to be beneficial to other options traders. And while it's still the case that you can definitely use the information and forecast that we're going to be providing to trade options, I felt that as the show progressed, I realized that it wasn't specific to options or specific enough. So I changed the name to just be S&P 500 Weekly Market Forecast. So with that little bit out of the way, we're going to also address the other thing that you may notice is different, all the blue. So in recognition of Autism Awareness Month, I will have the blue background, the blue shirt, blue Iron Man over here on for every episode for the the month of April. So I know a lot of you guys may have friends or family out there and showing your support. So this is a small way that we can show our support. All right, let's jump right into it. So we've got the market closing. Interesting close actually. So depending on who you ask, if you're looking at the cash market close versus the futures close, technically the cash market closed on Thursday. It was not open on Friday for the Good Friday holiday, but early morning trading continued on into the morning of April 2nd or April 3rd. So just a few little nuances there. There's technically a 4010 or 4010 close on the settlement, and that was on Thursday afternoon, but the market technically didn't really close until the next morning on the future side, and so the last price there was actually 40.27. So a pretty big difference, not enough to change any of our forecasts, but if you hear two different numbers or if you're wondering why it doesn't match up what you saw last, that's why. So market settled at 40.10 Thursday afternoon, but continued on to 40.27 until the trading actually ceased on Friday morning. So with that, let's take a look at last week, what we forecasted and what happened. All right, so you'll see here that the market did in fact breach above the breach point of 40.06 or 4006. It breached that point and it did stay within the expected settlement range, so staying below that 40.32 mark. But the big thing, obviously, is the fact that we actually crossed that 4,000 barrier. If you remember last week, towards the end of the show, I did say that we had enough momentum going into this week that I really felt that combined with the magnet effect of the 4,000 figure, that psychological effect, it was going to get us. We had enough to get past that 4,000. And sure enough, it did. It happened on Thursday before the week closed and stayed above that. So over the weekend, we're now looking to see what the market's going to open at this afternoon. And we'll see if we can stay above that. But a little more on that later on in the show. All right, we're going to take a look at the breach points that we're projecting for this coming week. Here we go. And the breach points that we're projecting are going to be a lower breach point of 39.57 and an upper breach point of 4,044. It still feels a little weird even just saying that, 4,044. But yeah, that happens every time we hit a new milestone, right? So now the new term is going to be 40 something, 40, 44, 40, 35, 40, 50, whatever it may be, unless we drop down back into the 39s. But let's see here, you have an odds of 81.26% that we will breach one of those two breach points. Notice that the upper breach point is pretty close to where we actually ended up closing. Definitely closer to where we ended up closing than where we ended up settling. But let's do the overlay now and update the parabolic SAR. Here you go. The parabolic SAR is now at 38.28, so going up from the 38.11.5 last week. So still, slowly creeping up there. All right, we're going to add in the overlay of the settlement range, excuse me. The settlement range for this week we were expecting is between 3,904 or 3,904 and 4,085. Gotta make sure I don't get my numbers there mixed up. And so that expected settlement range, we have odds of 78.91% that will stay within that range of 39.04 to 40.85. All right. And as always, we're going to put those all together here and put it into a relative view so you can see exactly where all those line up compared to the recent market activity. All right. Notice there the Bollinger Band overlay, and you see how close, like I was mentioning, we are already to that upper breach point, and how much room there is for it to get down to the lower breach point and to the lower expected settlement range. Parabolic SAR still well below any of those figures, making it less and less likely that that we are going to be hitting it anytime soon. But we could, right? All right, so let's get to didn't see that one coming. All right. Some people would disagree. Some people think that we've definitely crossed that 4,000 barrier and where it's all upward from here and we've got the momentum, we're going. And don't get me wrong, I actually had positions that benefited from the market going up. I definitely thought it was going to go up. My analysis said so, and I followed through, and it worked out well for me. Now I'm kind of changing positions here. The numbers are showing me something different. I'm seeing how close we are to that upper Bollinger Band. I'm seeing how fast the market actually went up and blew past that 4,000 mark. It's not like it stayed in the single digits and just continued up all the way into like the 40s, and then kind of pulled back down. So honestly, I'm actually seeing a pullback below the 4,000 mark this week. I think we went up a little bit too fast. I think you're going to encounter some of that resistance, and we're going to kind of pull back below the 4,000 mark into the 3,900s. And then if this is a sustainable upward trend, then we're going to eventually breach back up above it. But I don't think we blow past the 4,000 mark and never look back. So that's what I'm seeing for this coming week. Also because look how close we are to that upper Bollinger Band, which again provides some kind of like natural resistance as well. So I'm seeing that pullback. Whether you see it or not, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, we all have to live and die by our own decisions. I'm just sharing my insight. And so we're going to now introduce the quote of the week, right? And this is actually the longest one we've had, but I'm going to read it out, and I think it's definitely well worth listening to and taking into consideration. So our quote of the week is from the hedge fund manager, Paul Tudor Jones, which, I mean, just Google him. I mean, you'll see there's some interesting stories about Paul Tudor Jones. He's definitely made a name for himself. But his quote here says, "Where you want to be is always in control. Never wishing, always trading, and always, first and foremost, protecting your butt. After a while, size means nothing. It gets back to whether you're making 100% rate of return on $10,000 or $100 million. It doesn't make any difference." So, a lot to unpack there, but basically what we get out of this is that you do not want to be trading emotionally, and you don't want to trade differently when you're up or when you're down. Like, if you're making money and you've increased your starting, capital 100-fold, 100%, then you should continue doing what you're doing, right? Obviously, scaling upwards, but you shouldn't change your approach just because you're afraid of losing money or because you're happy you made money and now you're afraid of losing that gain. Basically, the idea is always stay in control, keep to your principles, and yes, principles play a huge role in trading because at the end of the day, there is still a person, and that person is you behind the computer screen making those decisions. So be the one making the decisions, be accountable. On that note, have a great week. Take care, guys, and I will see you here next week.